Unfazed by the ongoing trade dispute with the US, it's business as usual at one of China's biggest ports. As the US threatens more tariffs, containers imports all over China are filled to the brim. China's trade surplus with the US, the biggest issue in the dispute, widened to a record monthly high of about $29 billion, up $4 billion from May. In the first half of the year, China's exports to the US grew almost 14% year-on-year, while imports from the US rose 12% in the same period. And despite being slapped with up to 25% tariffs on its aluminium and steel, Chinese exports of both metals also hit record highs, driven by strong international prices and a weak yuan. But trade experts say June's record trade surplus could be a one-off event, as Chinese exporters rush to get their goods to the US before the expected tariffs kick in. And Chinese authorities are bracing for the impact of a full-scale trade war.
Looking at the current situation, this trade dispute will definitely have a certain impact on China-US trade. Furthermore, it will have extremely disadvantageous impacts upon global trade.
The Trump administration's plan to put a 10% tariff on a further $200 billion worth of Chinese goods this week prompted a fiery reply from Beijing. It included a 1,300-word document calling the decision slander. China is also taking the case to the World Trade Organization.
For any talk to be successful, one party needs to take the gun off the head of the other party. And for any talk to be useful, one party needs to be keeping its words.
The possibility of reconciliation may be drifting further away. But so far, the threat of an all-out trade war with the US has yet to spook China's port operators. Laila Humairah, TRT World.
Okay, let's go back to London and Paris. So, Chris, let me pick up with you again. This latest trade record surplus that China recorded in June with the US, does it give Trump yet another cudgel to hit Beijing over the head with?
Yeah, it's a nice political one-liner. You know, they're having us over even more than they were before. But I mean, you know, the reality is of what's going on here. We're talking about real organisations with real orders that have to meet those orders, that have got things that have been ordered from their exporters or importers, etc., etc. So you cannot just switch on or switch off. You're obviously looking for different suppliers given the economic circumstances. So that's the reality. But also, I think, you know, we need to be clear that Trump is around for a few more years. The Chinese think in a much longer time span, and they are probably thinking they can outlast Trump.
Well, that's a good point. The other issue, though, is that they're running out of things that they can retaliate against. I mean, given the trade balance between the two, how does China retaliate beyond the estimated $250 billion, which is about half of the amount that China sorry, I beg your pardon, that the US exports to China?
To be blunt, the Chinese government will always find a way to exert the influence they want to exert over a period of time, no matter how they do that in terms of restrictions on American business or whatever. I mean, I think the simple fact is that we also need to remember that it's not just a specific Chinese product that is arriving on the shores of America. We also need to remember that a significant element of that is things such as electronic circuit boards that go to the States that are then included in American-produced products that are built there.
All right. Craig, the same question to you. Is Trump going to use this latest data point in his argument?
I'm sure he will. That data is coming from the front-loading the Americans need to do. Look, this is a war. When you're in a war, you need supplies. You need a quartermaster. You need, and that's what you're seeing here. Look, Trump is being greedy while the rest of the world is being fearful. Now, when you're greedy, when others are fearful, that's how you make money. That's how Donald Trump thinks. And Chris put his finger on the key issue here a few moments ago when he said collateral damage. That is the real question. How much collateral damage can America take until the population becomes inconvenienced?
Yeah.
That is going to take some time.
Yeah.
Again, everyone tends to look at, not everyone, let's just say the conventional wisdom here is we look at this in terms of winners and losers. We shouldn't look at it that way. We should look at survivors. China is better equipped to survive a trade war than the United States because expectations amongst the Chinese people are much lower than in the United States.
Right. We haven't got all that much time left. I want to bring up what I think is the most fascinating aspect of this latest round of the US tariffs. Among the thousands of products that are being hit, they include bovine semen and antiques from China. Chris, is there any logic to what they're doing?
I think probably they're just hitting what they can. But that said, I mean, to be honest, seriously, there are cultural arguments that say actually you need to restrict the removal of your country's own heritage to other places. So maybe there is a cultural element there. But certainly to the point about whose population is going to blink first, we're not going to have people on the streets of Peking or Beijing protesting because they can't get hold of jeeps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Craig, is there a logic to it?
Well, yeah, if you're a cattle rancher in the American West, bovine semen is a really big business.
Yep. Okay. We are going to have to leave it there on that slightly unsavory note, I have to say, yes. Chris Roebuck and Craig Copetas, both. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.